this thing, and I am a recovering entrepreneur. Thank you. Time to introduce our guest speakers. We're delighted to have Mike Clark and Steve Orlando today. They have been on our radio show, and it was a great deal of fun to hear their story. Mike and Steve were born and raised in Mentor. Steve was the earlier entrepreneur, greatly influenced by our own Gary Schoninger of the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. As a college student, Steve started a parking lot cleaning company and built it to over a dozen clients. And by hearing his schedule recently, I don't know how he has time to sleep. Your mother, Steve, said she never sees you anymore. So Mike and Steve formed a band together, and they do travel a lot with it. They're very, very good. They did it a few years ago, and that's when Mike brought the Cell-A-Spot idea to Steve. Cell-A-Spot has potential and a really meanness to revolutionize the cell phone industry. Both Mike and Steve are going to tell an amazing story. I've heard part of it already, and it's truly a typical entrepreneurial story of crazy things happening to them. Steve and Mike, come on up.
Steve, I'm Mike. Thanks for having us today. Like Kip said, we started a company called Cell-A-Spot. It's a startup company that we're still in the works of making it a reality right now. It's still a concept, but we have a really good team behind us and a really cool story. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. Before I start, I thank a lot of people in my little spiel here, but I want to thank my family. I want to thank Gary Schoninger for bouncing ideas back and forth. Gary spent time over my place. I've spent time in his. I spent countless hours talking to my family about dumb business ideas, and yeah, I just couldn't have done without them. So my name's Steve Orlando. I'm 21 years old. I live on my own. I'm a current student at Cleveland State University. And my entrepreneurial story started a long time ago. Started way back when I was 10 years old. I would hear my dad tell stories of waking up early, grabbing a bite to eat, and enjoying a beautiful day on the golf course. The fresh cut grass, the long winding fairways, the slick greens, the tough putts. Did I mention he was a caddy? And that's right, every morning my dad would ride his bike about 4 miles to Curtin Country Club and carry golf bags for the members in order to make a few extra bucks. After hearing these stories and realizing this career was my calling, I signed up to be a caddy when I was 12 years old. And 12 years old, I was in 6th grade. So every morning my father would take me to Kirtland on his way to work. He would drop me off in the morning, and I wouldn't have ride home until he was done around 5 o'clock. So I knew if I was going to be stuck there all day, I had to make some money doing it. And that mindset kind of set me apart from all the other caddies my age, and I soon became one of the go-to caddies for the summer. Without even realizing it, I was learning important characteristics of running a small company and relying on myself to get work done. When you're a caddy, there's no schedule. You show up when you want. The more you show up, the better chance you have of getting out. The more you show up, the better your face is to the caddy master, the better loops you're going to get. You can't rely on anybody else. You show up whenever you can, and it's completely, you rely on yourself for everything. These baby steps I lived through on a smaller scale prepped me in a major way when I would rely on a self-employed income to support myself later in life, when either customers didn't pay, jobs fell through, I underbid a job, etc. I can handle those things now better because subconsciously as a teenager I dealt with these things on a daily basis. I also learned the first step in business is customer satisfaction. The customer comes first. In the caddy yard, there was always a stigma about the members and how they're so rich and evil for being that way. And the fact they didn't tip us 50 bucks around was inconceivable. I have to admit, for a while, I pled guilty to that same mindset. I thought, well, we got so much money, why can't they tip us? Why can't they be helping us out, the little guys? But that was short-lived for me because I realized thinking that way was hindering every chance I had at success. If you hate everyone with $1 more than you do, you're going to be one really depressed dude for the rest of your life. And I don't want to take that road anymore. So I did that for a few summers. I still do it now every once in a while, but I have other means of income. But it's been a great job, but it's only during the summer. So after a few summers of this, I was promoted to the highest level of caddy, making some serious money as a 14, 15-year-old kid. Close to about $100 a day, which is not bad for a kid that can't even drive. I was happy. The summers weren't long enough though. When the school year came around and winter came around, I needed to get a real job. So I applied in a fast food business. It was actually an ice cream shop. I applied at one of my favorite ice cream shops, and I was hired there. It was a completely different world for me, moving from the self-employed feeling of a caddy to the show up on time and clock in for minimum wage mindset that was in this workplace. However, I worked there for several years without any complaints and seemed to do fairly well. Again, I worked with a self-employed mindset while I was working there, so I was quickly given more responsibilities as a worker and worked my way up the chain pretty quickly. A new owner took over with a fresh young mind and a desire to succeed and make money. So I thought to myself, here's my chance. I can make a plan to make the company some extra cash and show the owner maybe I can get a raise, like a quarter raise, something that set me aside from the rest of the employees. So that summer I started something called the Suggestive Selling Campaign. I'd work the drive-thru, and if he ordered a vanilla cone, I'd ask if he wanted sprinkles on it. They said no sprinkles. I'd say, well, do you want to get it in a cup? I could put whipped cream on it. They said, no. I was like, well, what do you want to drink? They said, yeah. And I'd keep track of that extra amount that every customer would be spending. It ended up being close to about $200 a shift. So, in a 4-hour shift, I was making an additional $200 for the company. And I was making $6 an hour. So, I go to the owner, and I write up a little proposal. I have a little spreadsheet and everything. And I said, listen, I'm bringing in an extra $200 a shift. This is for 4 hours, I'm bringing in over $50 an hour. Can I get a quarter raise? And he chuckled at me and said, how about a nickel raise? So that kind of like set me back. Now I'm kind of going to take a step back for a second. This was my senior year in high school. I just started taking a class at Lake Catholic called Free Enterprise. It was an hour early. I had to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning my senior year. I wanted to be lazy. I wanted to sleep in. I did not want to go to class that early, but I ended up doing it anyways. These two guys would talk to me with extreme passion and sincere joy and motivation about their lives as entrepreneurs and how the strings of life work and how the world works. And it was like hitting a brick wall. I was young, outgoing, not afraid to fail, and the feeling of an entrepreneur fire was being lit underneath me by my teachers. So I went to my manager and I quit the ice cream shop. My teacher was Gary Schoniger and Mike Baird. So with this sense of assurance and desire under my belt to start something on my own, I paid extra attention in that class. I can attribute almost entirely all of my coaching, for the exception of my father, to what I've learned with Gary and Mike. It was a fresh class that I looked forward to attending every day because it was taught by real entrepreneurs that worked in the real world.